So we are using the principles that we've been using here this week. So we are focusing on conditions, and I'll share some of those with you in a moment. We're focusing on network capability very strongly in the organisation, and that's sometimes locally and sometimes globally, and we move in and out of that reasonably comfortably because of the nature of the organisation we are. Whole systems thinking is not really well ingrained within Holden, and I'll give you a taste of that shortly. And I'll talk a little bit about catalytic action, and I guess it's only recently I've comprehended the power of this catalytic action, and we have, in the short period that I've been managing the innovation team, and it's a team that's going through considerable trauma because, like most big companies, when you go through a global financial crisis, the first thing you want to cut back is research and development. And we started this year with very different conditions, because last year we had money, this year we've got none. So I got my team together and I said, new condition, we have to innovate with no money. So that's what we've been doing this year. So a bit of a taste of where linear thinking is appropriate in the car industry, and this is a traditional model that applies across most large manufacturers in the world as to how a car comes out. And if you walk through this process within a car company, you would never complain about quality problem in a car again. It's amazing we get one car out that's good quality. It is so complex. So we have a go at identifying new markets, new business opportunities. We have a high-level proposition around what that's about in terms of styling, performance, architecture, so how big the car is, the financials, what the scope is. If we're doing a whole new car, that's a big deal. The last time we did a whole new car, which was released in 2006, it cost $1,000 million. About $500 million for engineering and $500 million for manufacturing tooling. So this is very serious decision making. We refine program content, make sure we've got a business case so we keep Todd and others happy that there's going to make money at the end of this. And then we just get into the execution, styling, engineering, the product and the process, validating to make sure we don't have failures in the field, sourcing the parts from Australia and overseas, and then we ship them, market them, sell them, and service them in the field. And then get into continuous improvement when we didn't get everything quite right. The characteristics of this traditional business process is that it assumes that as it moves through the functions, if everybody does their bit, it'll come out right in the end. And in my experience in going through this process many times, that the showstoppers and the major issues in the system at the front end have nothing to do with the thing that's going to cause you to maybe not start production at the back end, because it's so complex and so unpredictable. It's a step-by-step linear recipe that invariably never works without intervention. In fact, never works without intervention. It's hierarchical, so the boss thinks he's in control, and a month, a week, a day before start of production, he realises he's not in control. There's complexity in control. So thinking about the new Holden, and Holden is still not very good at this from thinking about a whole systems view, but there's certainly been a big change, and the conversations and discussions within Holden indicate a significant change to a whole systems view. So our customer-driven approach, we talk about this a lot in the car company, and other companies that produce products and services for customers would talk about this, focuses on two core things, which are what's the value for the customer and what's the value for the business. And so that drives a lot of what we do. A whole value approach, which is starting to happen more, but not enough yet in Holden, considers other key conditions, which is the foundation, as we've heard this week, for strategy and action. And for example, we now have a Director of Energy Environment, which we've never had until this year. And so part of his role is constant surveillance of conditions around energy environment. Because without that constant surveillance of energy and environment conditions, we will make mistakes, and that could be very costly. So that's a change that's occurred. Understanding network capability, and we've just had a managing director leave Holden who understood this better than any executive I've ever met within General Motors, and probably has saved Holden from disappearing from this country in a period of 18 months. And his capability that has helped save Holden is around network capability. One day, if GM survives, I suspect he'll be running General Motors globally. And then catalytic actions. And catalytic actions often don't work, often fall flat. And that's because you have to get the timing right. And a little story, one example, catalytic actions are one of my team, and he did this without consulting with me, without telling me, but he sensed that I was the kind of leader of, and I feel a bit uncomfortable, manager of innovation, because you can't manage innovation. So he realised that Peter was different than his predecessor, because my predecessor managed innovation. So when I joined the group, without telling me, he sent an email to the managing director. Not many people do that within a large corporation. And said, did you know that there's a piece of hybrid technology designed and developed by CSIRO that was a collaborative project between Holden and CSIRO, started in 2003, that a GM executive flew in 2006 and stopped the project, and it's sitting on the shelf. Pretty risky thing to do, to highlight a project that a senior executive from North America had cancelled. Our managing director said, no, I didn't know that. And I said to my guy who sent that email, I said, oh, gee, you did what? Holy smoke, nothing's going to come out of that. Gee, I hope we don't get into trouble. The next conversation I had with the guy who reported to me was, I'm talking to his admin assistant about organising time for him to come and have a look at this innovation. I said, really? You really think he's going to take the time to do that? Okay, give it a shot. The next conversation was, he's booked in and he's allocated 3 hours to go out to CSIRO and have a look at it. And that project is still now running again within Holden. The sad thing is that if we hadn't lost 2 years, it may be in production shortly. And I'll touch on something else that connected with that, which connects with be careful what you catalyse. But I'll come to that a little later. So key conditions. So give you a bit of idea what we face in the car industry, which has changed this year globally in ways that will never change back, which is pretty shocking. I mean, what's happened this year I didn't think would ever happen. Larry will say, we're pretty thick, Peter, you should have been looking at emergent conditions. So let's talk about a couple of the conditions in the car industry. Holden's core business, and what I know from seeing financial material within Holden, is that about 90% of our profit used to come from one thing, and that was the Commodore platform. All the other cars and products that we produced very little end result in terms of profit. That core business continues to diminish. Has been slowly over recent years. Early this year, changed significantly. Ever since I've been working in Holden for 30 years, 3 decades, we talked about Holden being a competitor to Ford and Toyota and Mitsubishi and Nissan, some of whom have left the country in terms of manufacturing, large cars. This year, the discussions going on in Holden, Commodore, a large car, is a direct competitor to a Toyota Corolla and a Mazda 3. And we now have the market research data to show that customers are completely skipping a market segment and moving from large cars to small cars. Now that's shocking information, which we're trying to comprehend and deal with. Our export business, which has been one of the keys of resilience of Holden in the past, has almost disappeared overnight.